Mike Detillier, welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you're doing well, man.
I'm doing well. Man, it never ends for us, Ryan. Never. I mean, college football, they say, once it's over, it's over. Man, it never ends, baby. We just keep rolling this.
No, I mean, it is crazy when we talk about the just the busy around here. I mean, Alabama, Nick Saban wins a championship, and he's overhauling his staff.
Well, it happens. I never forget, this was a few years back. I got to talk to Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy was telling me, hey, when you win and win big, he said 3 things are going to happen. One is that, people that would never consider your school in the past are going to consider it. 2, you're going to have a lot of juniors leave early. That's part of the plan. When you attract those type athletes. And 3, you better get ready to overhaul your staff every year because it's going to happen. It's not a might. It's going to be something that's going to happen. And he said, that's the thing about winning that's totally different from, say, maybe 25, 30 years ago, where a lot of guys, they stayed at the staff forever unless they got a head coaching job. You guys got an assistant coach. He's had 3 jobs in what, a matter of 3 weeks? And Clark, he's bounced around all over the place. And I know him. He coached here in Louisiana, at Southeastern, Louisiana Tech. He was at UL Lafayette with Billy Napier for a short time, and now he's in Alabama. So, man, that's just the way the coaching world is. It's the commuter world. And people talk about pro football, but the college football world for coaches is absolutely the same, if not worse.
How good of a coach is he?
Listen, he's a highly enthusiastic guy. We've been at a ton of camps together. He coached linebackers first. That was his specialty. And then he started coaching defensive backs. He thought that probably that was the fast track for him to maybe get a defensive coordinator's job. If he could coach the secondary people. So that's when he switched over, went to Texas Tech, and was secondary coach. Man, I'm telling you what, Ryan, he's a live wire with no insulation. Man, he is the type of guy that is constantly in motion. He's got some juice with him, and he brings some youth to that staff and enthusiasm every day. He's got it. Very good recruiter, knows the game really well, and I understand why he left to go with Nick because again, knowing him, understanding that listen, his goal is he wants to be a defensive coordinator or a head coach one day, and this certainly puts him on that highway to do so. But he's a really good coach. Relates well to players, extremely well, gets them to listen, understand, and he's a highly motivated young coach. It really does. And he's got one trait I like in a coach. He listens. A lot of guys, they just want to tell you what they know. He is a guy who does a great job of, if you with him, he kind of quizzes you and he listens on what you have to say on certain subjects. I think that's a big trait for anyone successful in life, the ability to listen. Not just want to talk, but want to listen. He's got that. You guys are going to enjoy him. He's somebody that, again, he comes to work enthusiastic and he leaves enthusiastic. He's a young man that one day is going to be a head coach in college football.
Okay. Well, Mike Detillier giving him a big review. Mike, let me ask you this. When you hear the name Hugh Freeze associated with Alabama, what's the first reaction that you have?
It didn't surprise me. I didn't think anybody in the SEC would touch him because of, what had happened at Ole Miss. He's rubbed people the wrong way on some coaches. What would happen on his dismissal from Ole Miss. Come on, Ryan. How many athletic directors, even if you felt Hugh Freeze could help your football team in the environment that we live in today, would open that door and say, Hugh, come on, coach with me? Zero, with the exception of one that would have enough clout to say, you know what, we've done this in a different manner. But Steve Sarkisian had major issues, too, off the field, and brought him in. And so it doesn't surprise me. I've always felt that Lockley would be the guy. Lockley would be the coordinator. But if Hugh showed back up in the SEC, that would be only one spot that he could show up, and that would be at Alabama. Because, Ed Orgeron hired him at Ole Miss, when Ed was the coach there, and not a whiff. When LSU's situation opened up, not a whiff for Hugh Freeze, nothing. But I think he also knew that Joe Oliva would never approve of it. That wasn't going to happen here at LSU. So it doesn't surprise me with that situation. How it fits is going to be interesting for me, because other than Ole Miss, other than Alabama, have you heard of any other school that has even contacted you?
Well, I've heard rumblings, and maybe you can help us out. But didn't Missouri at least maybe gauge an interest there? And there was even rumblings, and you may be able to help us out. Did LSU? I mean, was that ever? Did that ever materialize?
No,
or was that just?
I can guarantee.
Okay,
you.
That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
No, I can guarantee you that was nothing to that. Now,
Okay.
A lot of people wanted to connect the dots with that because of the fact that Orgeron did hire Hugh and gave him his first job in college football. But other than that, that was nothing to that situation at all. And I think even if Ed had an interest, which I don't think he did, it would have never gotten approved by the athletic director here. He ain't sticking his neck out for anybody. So at this point, I kind of heard, maybe a rumble or two but I didn't hear anything solid about Hugh Freeze to Missouri. And again, I think that many people feel as though the NCAA has kind of told the higher officials in the SEC, hey, maybe stay away from Hugh Freeze. Let him get a job somewhere else. But we just live in a different climate today. We live in a different climate. But if there's one school that would say, hey, you come on down and help us, it would be Alabama with Nick Saban. And the fact that his offense and his teams have given Alabama more trouble than anyone else in that time in the last 5 years, other than Deshaun Watson and Clemson. That's not even debatable at this point. What Ole Miss did with Hugh gave Alabama a lot of problems. It's just a matchup situation that didn't work out at times, and he ended up winning a few of those games. So I can understand Nick's interest in talking to him and seeing where this goes with it. I think a lot of people may have felt maybe Jim McElwain would have been in the hunt with that too, because he's another guy that has to rehab his image to become a head coach again. And what better way than to kind of click yourself onto the Nick Saban train?
Mike, there's not many people that we can ask this question to, and that's why I'm going to throw it to you. Knowing what we know about Hugh Freeze, I want to pick your brain offensively. Is he worth the risk, the reward that you get for putting an offensive mind like that? I mean, is he just so far ahead of everybody else? I mean, is he worth the risk, Mike?
I would say if I can get it past the athletic director, he is. Now, at Alabama, we all know, Nick is king. So that's not going to be an issue if he says, I want Hugh Freeze on my staff. His ability to recruit, and that's become a bit of a joke, but, what he did to bring in players at Ole Miss, tell me the last coach that did that. Houston Nutt couldn't. Orgeron did a pretty good job recruiting, but, by the time he got those guys in place, his coaching on the field got him fired. So he's done something that an Ole Miss coach hasn't done in a long time, and that's to be able to recruit very well outside the state and throw them tentacles out and bring in people. And he's done a good job developing the most critical spot on the team, and that was at quarterback. I don't think there's anyone that would debate you on that part. He did a really good job in that manner. So is he worth the risk for Alabama? Absolutely.
Okay.
And I would take it if I were him. Now, what position he gets would be interesting for me, of exactly where he sort of fits in to all this, because I think most people feel as though, Mike's going to get elevated to be the offensive coordinator there.
Yeah, that's the big talk. I mean, it's that's the – but Hugh Freeze, and even Nick Saban, according to what we're hearing and that's been reported today, that even Nick Saban's getting a little pushback on Hugh Freeze here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because I think that even though I don't know how serious Ed was even thinking about it, I think he knew from the start that was not going to happen at LSU. If any fan base would have been sympathetic and said, man, if you can lay your hands on a quarterback and make him win for us, we're very forgiving on that. It would have been LSU, wouldn't it? But that didn't happen. I think Ed knew from the start that was going to be a lot of heat on him if he brought in Hugh Freeze, and I think that's why today you have seen every other coach back off. In a certain manner, look at the success Art Briles had at Baylor. Can you imagine a school bringing him in now? It's almost every couple months there's something else that comes out and something else that comes out. Is there something else with Hugh Freeze? That's the scary part about all this, Ryan, that, in today's world, is there something else? And you would think that Art Briles, with his success, by now somebody would have said, you know what, I'm taking a chance in brewing it. Now, if this were 20 years ago, probably, but not in the landscape today. You can't do it. There's going to be too much pushback from major donors, people in the upper parts of a school that will say, what he did or what he turned his back on is unforgiving, and we're going to walk away. And for some people, they feel as though, it's got to cool down a little bit with Hugh Freeze before we take that chance.
Well, Mike, you just hit a home run. In your last 4 sentences, you nailed a home run deep center field just then. And Bo Bounds, which is a guy that you make weekly appearances on at ESPN Jackson, came on this radio program yesterday, and he said, guys, we only know about 1% of what really happened in Oxford, Mississippi. And there is a ton more out there. See, that's what's been rumored, Ryan, for a long time since he got released, that the other shoe may come down sometime in the very near future. And that's why I think a lot of schools will say, you know what, he might be talented, but he ain't coming here. We don't want to have to deal with it. Look the situation in Kendall Briles getting a job. And the ramifications of the part of his contract is if something else comes out about what happened at Baylor, we can release you, and we don't owe you a dime. So I think that's just the landscape today. There's something else there with Hugh Freeze. I've just heard it from way too many people to believe that this was an isolated incident. And so I think that's why everybody is, you know what? If you want to do it, go right ahead, but we not. Mike, final question. Going back to Loxley and the offensive coordinator, are you not handing them a keys to a Lamborghini? I mean, if you're bringing in an OC, this is a fast track to a head coaching job with looking at the future and the youth on offense that can really be a dynamic offense. I mean, are you not handing them the keys to a Lamborghini and saying, take this thing for a spin for a couple of years?
Yeah, and the thing with Mike, I think he realizes, too, taking that job is also tremendous pressure. when's the last time an Alabama offensive coordinator, based off of it's a short period of work now that you're looking at with Tua. When's the last time somebody got handed that type of player at the most critical position on the field at Alabama? To have someone like Tua who you think is a cut above. It's been quite a while, hasn't it?
It has been.
So, I mean, he understands what he's got here. And all the youth at the wide receiver position and what's returning back at running back along the offensive line. Man, you got a lot here to spin this in a big manner. With that talent, you also bring in a lot of kind of pressure on you, but I'm willing to take it if I got that type talent. So I can understand why Mike would really want this job, because next year we may be talking about filling his position again. Same spot.
Yeah, it would be. No,
Listen, Sam Jankovic told me this years ago. Sam, he was the athletic director at Miami of Florida, and he had Snellenberger, Johnson, Erickson, Butch Davis. And then he went to the NFL with the Patriots, and I asked Sam about it. He was like, Mike, just think about in your business or in what I do today. Wouldn't you rather have a guy that other people want, or would you rather have a guy that's comfortable and doesn't want to leave and no one's after him? Isn't part of winning having other people interested in who you have in any position? And he said, you know what? If that guy leaves me better off when I was at Miami than he did when he took it, then he's done his job. And I think that's the approach Nick Saban takes. That, you know what, let me bring in the best people I can that'll run what I want to run, offensively and defensively. And if I lose them, guess what? They got a line of other guys willing to take that job that want to be exactly like the guy that just left.
Mike, I always appreciate it. Literally, man, I wrote down my prep work today. I said, we've got to ask Mike Detillier a lot of draft questions. I don't even think I've asked you one, because it's been Hugh Freeze has hijacked the show. I mean, because that's,
and you'll be hearing and you'll be talking about Hugh until all this is settled, one way or another.
Yeah,
I mean, he is the lightning rod of coaches. Years back in doing shows locally and nationally, it was all about Art Briles and what would happen with Art. And I said from day one, because of the severity of it, that I don't know who would touch that, despite his success. And I know he's a good coach, but you also got to answer to someone else. With Hugh, I think this is a little bit more of a short-term situation based off of what we know. But that got way too many rumblings out there that there are other situations here involving him. And that, the unknown, it's scary in sports, stuff that you really don't know.
No doubt. Mike, I promise you, we'll talk draft next week. I promise you.
No problem,
We got to talk.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great one, man.
You too, bud.